All right. Tennessee 63, Akron 6. That second half went about as planned. You got the backups in. No notable injuries, thankfully. Good thoughts to anyone and everyone that was injured at any point in that game on Tennessee's squad. We'll talk about all of that. But I think what everybody wants to know, the Akron game is over. Florida's on the horizon. Coming up 7 days from now, 3:30 p.m. on CBS Sports. Boy, the Florida Gators are coming.
We'll be doing post game at the same time next week.
We will probably. That's true. Those 3:30 broadcasts they tag out, don't they?
Man.
But that's Jonathan Crompton, former Vols quarterback. I am Charlie Burris of A to Z Sports. As everybody is filing in here, we're going to give you the full rundown. We're going to talk about the Florida game. Let's be honest, that's going to be the bulk of what's about to happen. But we'll run through it all. But first, I got to talk about our amazing sponsors, Farm Bureau Health Plans. Farm Bureau Health Plans is a corporate sponsor of the Vols. They've been serving Tennesseans for 75 years. Plan on them for health, dental, and vision at fbhp.com/ATOZ. That is Farm Bureau Health Plans. Then Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com and type in keyword Vols, VOLS, in the search bar. And fill your freezer with enough gourmet food to keep your cookouts going strong into the fall. Omaha Steaks, keyword Vols. And then Rattle and Snap, Tennessee whiskey from Log Still Distillery. Make your own luck, just like Tennessee's fast-paced Rattle and Snap offense with Rattle and Snap Tennessee whiskey. And I just realized I'm in my office here. I trapped my cat in here with us, so she may make an appearance on the show. Did that by accident. She was hiding over in the corner, so that'll be fun to see what she does. But thanks to everybody for tuning in. Grump, just your quick take on that second half. Nothing too out of what we thought was probably going to be, but just if you have anything for what we saw.
When is we kind of expected, what I did like, honestly, and we've already seen comments about it, is the accuracy from Milton. The one incompletion he had, he's 4 or 5. The one incompletion. My only critique would be he tried to kind of squeeze a slant in there late. You could tell he knew it wasn't there. And that one, honestly, incompletion, I'm just afraid of the ball getting batted up higher than it did in a bigger game. Just throw it away. Do the varsity blues, hit the mascot, right? Because you could tell he was like, I know there's nobody open. Kind of throw the slant behind. If he catches it, great. If not, that would be my only critique. And if that's the worst critique I've got of him for the night, that's a pretty damn good night, right? His deep balls were just unfreaking real tonight. Holy crap. Far from what we saw last year, right? And I honestly, I've seen comments on here already that were saying, he found accuracy. He throws a pretty steep ball I've ever seen, all this stuff. And he probably does. It's almost the prettiest deep ball I've ever seen in person was Michael Vick. I'm talking about just a flick and just unreal. Milton's is very similar to that because he's so strong. Last year, I truly think it was a lot of he came in late, a lot of nerves, a lot of high expectation. He won the job, and everybody's like, where did this guy come from? He wasn't even here until like the last 3 weeks, and he just wins the job, right? So at least I think now he's kind of settled into Knoxville, settled into the playbook. If he has to play in a big game, I think we all now have that confidence that we're still in the game. Right. I say all that to say that's what I took from the second half, in all honesty.
We kind of made the joke coming into the season that Tennessee had the best backup quarterback in America. I think you watch that tonight, and I think you got a really tough case if you want to say anything other than that. I mean,
he's got another year. He comes in next year he's the sure cut number one right now next year.
Yes, I think that's without a doubt.
That I understand it's great we played Akron, but we don't necessarily have to score 63.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean,
my critique of the coaches would be certain point, let's just shorten the game, get out of there. You don't have to continue to throw it. It's great to get guys experience, but we all know what it's like to be on the other side. We'll just say that.
So here's my question as far as that whole thing goes. For being completely honest, Joe Milton had a little more touch than the guy that is your starter right now. How do you, as a former quarterback at the college level and specifically at the University of Tennessee, how do you view that? Like, do you, obviously we're talking for sure he's your starter next year. I think he pretty much has that.
Unless someone just comes in and just pure beats him out, he is the guy next year.
Yeah, but when you see that, when you see Hooker come in, overthrowing guys, he's just off. It just doesn't feel great. He settled in, and, you know, Tennessee never even punted the ball when he's in the game, if I'm thinking correctly. But, and then Milton comes in throwing some dimes. And Hooker has had trouble throwing dimes this season. What do you, like, what does that make you think at all?
But notice, this is what I was trying to say last year. Yes, he overthrows balls. You got to give a keyword kid. He is a young man. You got to give him, and football is such a different game, right? It is day to day. Florida is up by 3, and I've got it here just to watch. USF is driving. They should beat the dog piss out of them. If you look on paper, they got a 6'5", 415-pound D tackle, for God's sake. Football is, how do you play that day? Missouri State, Arkansas, right? On paper, you go, it ain't even close. And they're down by 10 in the 4th. So what I'm getting at is, these are young men playing a violent game, for layman's terms, right? What I'm trying to get at is, that's where Milton last year, if we said it, he's the most physically gifted quarterback in the country. I don't even think it's close. I truly don't. You put him up against any quarterback in the country and you say, you guys go throw the same routes, and we go, you're winning all day on the same routes. I'm throwing every route in the playbook. When he comes in late, and this is where I've tried to say, I know what it's like to be that kid. I mean, that's called life. But he is a young man. And you could tell it kind of got to him last year. Now he's settled in. Hey, I'm not, and don't get me wrong, he's our pure number one. We get it. He gives us the best chance to win because guys believe in him. But if we need a spark, it ain't the worst thing in the world to put Milton in now and go, hey, by the way, now we know that you are comfortable and you kind of got a feel for guys. All right. The touch is starting to come. He flicks it 60 yards. Right. App State threw a Hail Mary today, and the ball landed at like 48. Right.
I mean,
like Aaron Murray said, and I love it. He goes, I got a triple crow hop to get that ball there.
That right? Like 57-yarder, that was effortless, man.
And it was literally, it's a flick of the wrist.
Oh.
And it just, he's starting to get it. And the beauty is, with the transfer portal now, we might start seeing not just him, but other kids getting different change of scenery, hence Hendon Hooker as well, that get in a better opportunity. Once again, Milton's got another year of eligibility. Maybe that's just what he needed. You don't have to be a 4-year starter. You don't have to be a 4-year starter, right, to be a first-round draft pick or to be drafted or have a long career. Hence Mark Sanchez at Southern Cal, right? Maybe that is Milton's path. There's nothing wrong with that, because the dude is just – I don't think I've seen anybody as physically gifted at that position in a long, long time.
So you will not entertain?
No. No, I will not.
You knew what I was going to say.
You
knew.
No, I will not.
There's no
Once
quarterback.
Again, hey, like we said at halftime, it's a great thing that we actually can now have those conversations, though.
Yes. I mean, it makes you feel so good about next year. Yeah. It makes me like excited to go like, man, you're going to have another recruiting class under Heupel, and he's been recruiting nicely. you're gonna have competition in that room with Nico Iamaleava, Taven Jackson, potentially. Jackson might transfer with the given situation, but you have what you have, and you're seeing Milton just kind of come into his own this way. That's really exciting, and it warms my heart as a Tennessee fan, because good things like that don't happen to this football program too often, at least not in the last 15 years. So it's good to see. But let's just go ahead and do this before we get into the real meat of the Florida game. Let's start here. For everybody that is watching, we got triple digit folks in here with us now that we're settled in a little bit. One word to describe how you're feeling. Florida on the horizon. You just beat Akron 63-6. You friggin' nailed them into the ground. It appears that Cedric Tillman will be okay. That was kind of what Heupel played it off in the game interviews. Hopefully that's all correct. Supposedly Tillman's walking on the sideline saying he's fine, but he still sat out for the rest of that game with a lower body injury.
And he should have. Let's call it like it is.
That was absolutely the right call no matter what.
Yes.
So that's the situation. 63-6. One word to describe how you're feeling right now. How are you feeling about this Florida game, about what you just saw tonight? It doesn't even matter. This is kind of open-ended. Just one word. Cromp and I will give ours. But this segment is brought to you by the amazing folks at Farm Bureau Health Plans. Farm Bureau Health Plans have been serving Tennesseans for over 75 years. And I got to make sure that we can get there. There's a logo right there. They look great. Farm Bureau Health Plans have been serving Tennesseans for over 75 years. Much has changed in Tennessee over the years, but some has stayed the same. Farm Bureau Health Plans has always valued personal relationships, especially when it comes to good health and good service. Plan on Farm Bureau Health Plans for health, dental, and vision. For better coverage, better rates, and better service, go to fbhp.com/ATOZ, fbhp.com/A to Z, or walk into one of their 200 plus locations across the state of Tennessee. That is fbhp.com/ATOZ. Farm Bureau Health Plan. Support them because they are supporting the boys here on the show. We got a bunch of comments rolling in. The one word that you would use about how you are feeling right now.
Some of these comments are amazing.
Oh, I got it. Man, we got a bunch. Here we go. Okay. Jimmy Clement says, amazing. Derek says, unbeatable. Danny says, great. Ashton Kate says, prepared. Matthew Parker says, practice. I like that one. Ben Hall says, destined. Okay. Logan Reeves, swaggerish. That's a cool one. Volunteer Bassing says, uneasy. Nick Martinez, excited. Clayton Smith, confident. Lou Man, again, who I believe from last week, I believe it's a Vandy fan. He says, overheating. Well, no, that's not great. Repair your AC there, Lou Man. And Pat Rose says, optimistic. Crump, one word. How you feeling after this beatdown tonight?
Consistent.
Okay.
Like just the overall tonight, I was looking at the stats, 20-25 passing. Now that's everybody. All three QBs that played 20-25 for 438. Okay. 45 rushes for 238. Remember what I said last week? Our sweet spot is if we rush for like 120 to 140 and more. If we rush for that, we're very hard to beat. Now, obviously, I understand this was Akron. That's not what I'm getting at. But, like, by the way, sorry, USF just missed a game time field goal.
I was trying to see what happened. I saw some people in the comments. They were like, what happened, USF? Why?
Well, because they muffed a snap for negative 15 yards on second down. And then missed roughly a 50-yarder. So back to this, sorry. When we rush for 120, 130, 140 plus, then we're hard to beat. Like I said, I know it's Akron. It was 238. But Florida just gave up almost 300 yards rushing, by the way. In case everybody's wondering, there's a reason why I'm bringing up the rushing stat, okay? Florida,
I was going to go here.
So Florida just gave up 294 yards rushing against USF. Don't remember, USF's a good team, right? And that's not what I'm getting at. I'm trying to say is we can run the piss out of the football if we really, really want to with our schematics.
Well, I'll give my one word, and I want to bring up a couple that I see here. Again, we're talking about the one word you would use to describe how you're feeling right now with Florida coming up, Tennessee winning 63-6. I like this one from Paul Morgan. He says, "Do."
Yeah, I like that.
I watched the Pat McAfee show some, and they say with their gambling picks, they say you're either hot or you're due. That's what they always say about gambling picks. And to relate it to Florida, Lordy, we're due. We're due for one, aren't we? I mean, 16 the last 17, 5 in a row. Tennessee's lost here. We are due. That's an amazing point. I would say people aren't gonna like this, but
oh God,
scared,
I can only imagine where you're going.
I'm scared. I'm so scared.
Why?
This Florida game
haunts
my dreams.
But here's what you have to understand: the whole season does not fall on one game. It doesn't. Do you know how many teams? Do you know how many teams in the history of college football have went 15-0? Clemson and Bama. Historically, teams are going to lose at least one ball game. I'm not wishing that, but it doesn't reside off one game, right? I understand that it's a rival game. That's not what I'm getting at, but it's the fact of don't let the past affect our future. And I'm saying that to everybody. Have confidence in it. Screw them. I don't care who we're playing. Screw them.
It is so much easier said than done when you're a fan just looking in, and I'm sure tons of people can relate to this specifically.
And I stand corrected. Yes, it was LSU, not Bama, because Bama didn't have 15 because they played a 10-game season. So you're right.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, Burrow went 15-0.
Yeah. It was LSU at 19.
But outside looking in, there's so much wrapped up into this game. I mean, one of my best friends in the world is huge Florida fan. And we, go back and forth about this. Actually, a couple of them are big Florida fans. And, you have like that element in it. And you work back from there. That's the most immediate one because we might be watching the game together or whatever. And, you just want to have those bragging rights. But then you go and you look at like the historical PTSD of this whole thing. Like you just run it back through everything that's happened with Florida. And this is what I always say. I was saying it last week. This game's supernatural, man. This is like Tennessee. You look like Florida just got 300 yards rushing put up on them, and they almost lost to the South Florida Bulls. Tennessee should beat the brakes off these boys. Should, on paper, when you look at it. Tennessee.
On paper, but like we said, paper means nothing.
Exactly. It doesn't. It's a rivalry game, and just you throw that whole thing out, throw the book of stats out the window. It doesn't matter. This is like supernatural. There's some sort of like force that comes in and it goes like, nah, you're not. Yeah, Tennessee's a better team 2015, but like, nah, you're not going to win. 4th and 14, you're not winning this game. Sorry, nope. What? 2016, somehow we lifted that curse. God bless. This amazing. Next year, Hail Mary at Florida. The next year, Dan Mullen takes over. He's kicking our butt up and down the field because we make a terrible hire. We hire an idiot. But, it's just so much through this rivalry that's just been like, you have to be absolutely kidding me. Like, this has to be a cosmic joke. There's not almost any other explanation to me other than just like God hates us. Like, why? Why is it like this? And so I am scarred. And that's maybe scarred is my one word. That's one going into this game.
Depends on what you're trying to write down the same.
To say that again,
never mind. I'll keep it to myself.
Well, I'm gonna go back and listen and see what you said. But regardless, that's just how I feel going into this. Tennessee looks really solid, and so far in season, it's been inconsistent offense. The defenses look better than we thought it would look. You're getting really nice contributions from a lot of different guys. Your great players are looking great strangely outside of Hendon Hooker. He's kind of the one that he hasn't necessarily looked bad, but he's the one guy that hasn't looked like he really took a nice step forward. Like Jalen Hyatt, huge step forward. Brew McCoy looks awesome. Tillman looks, the same. He's had a couple of untimely drops, but like still one of the best wide receivers in America. Yep. You're getting performances like that. Again, just like on paper, this is all there. Florida just almost lost. USF gave up 300 yards rushing. Why is this not a 20-point win for Tennessee next week? That's what kills me. Because we all know it's not going to be that. You know what I mean?
Listen. You need to learn. I don't watch NFL football, okay?
Okay. I do, unfortunately.
But you need to learn to be like the Cowboys fans. Right?
Dead inside?
Just sincerely optimistic. And I say that in all honesty and positivity. It's just one game. Right? Yeah, it's Florida, Georgia, Florida, Auburn, Bama, right? UCLA, USC, Duke, Carolina in basketball. You want to win, but that one game does not define your season and your success rate. And here's why I say that. When you let that be your mindset, if God forbid you lose, you've completely effed the rest of your season. So, you're human. That's going to happen.
So I'm an eternal, or I guess I would say I'm a long-term optimist always.
Are you?
Long-term. Listen, long-term.
You're going to have to prove you're going to have to prove that one.
So like I look.
I need some track record.
Here you go. I've said this for a long time. Go back when I was on Swain's show and stuff. You came on with us back then, I said similar stuff. I'm a long-term optimist always. There are Tennessee fans that are pure doomers where they go, we have screwed this thing up so bad that we will never return to those times of glory. It is gone forever, and that is done. You saw tonight that that's not true. Unequivocally. 102,000 people showed up for the Akron game. 102,000 people don't show up for the Akron game for just some program, some like run of the mill. Oh, they're middle of the road. This is Tennessee's elite. Even when they're not great on the football field, they are elite in terms of resources. You have billionaire boosters. You have, just endless amounts of money that are generated from fans. 102,000 people come to the Akron game. Just undying loyalty. It is like, this isn't Vanderbilt. People come to these games, incredibly loyal. You can tell from the way that I talk about this Florida game, just how crazy it is. And so long-term, I go, no. Tennessee will be back. You will be back at some point. Nick Saban will go away eventually. Eventually, he will retire, and you'll be able to get back over that hump. You'll do whatever, blah, 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 blah. Eventually, it turns around. But in the short term,
so here,
I don't know. I don't know when that turn comes.
No. And here's the thing. So you're a long-term optimist, but a short-term pessimist, right? By definition.
Sure.
But watch this. What defines short-term? Because no. Before you answer, here's why. A day leads to a week. A week can lead to a month, and then you go, I'll tomorrow. It's always tomorrow. A month leads to a year. Next thing you know, we're a decade into everybody going, oh, well, here we go again. Instead of understanding, if we have that mindset, and it's not just fans, it's players, it's coaches, it's personnel staff, and everything. We haven't had that mindset in a long time in that building. I'll just be honest with you. We have the mindset now. But that's what I'm trying to say is and it goes for every program when it comes to this mindset. If we always go, I'll believe tomorrow, or I think we can win, next time. Maybe not. You always have that mindset of it doesn't matter the year. Last year doesn't freaking matter. Right? Last week doesn't matter when it comes to football or when it comes to sports. And so Mark Jones says believing's half the battle. Man, in this sport and the SEC, believing is more than half. Because at this level, everybody's good.
Well,
I'm agreeing with Mark, but I'm going to take it a step further and say it's a little more than half because everybody's really good at this level. It's just a matter of how do you put it together? What pieces do you piece together at the right time? We have the pieces. They have the pieces, right? Their quarterback is an absolute physical freak of nature. He hasn't put the pieces together except for against Utah, and that tells you how well Utah is. Utah's obviously not as good as everybody thought, right? You can tell that Heupel teaches the stuff that I'm saying right now about you got to believe in yourself and believe in the guy next to you. Screw what happened last year. Screw what happened the year before. Screw what happened the last decade. Were you a part of that team? No, you weren't. Who cares? We're a part of this team. Let's do it. That's what I'm trying to get at. Like, if we start having that mindset, which you can tell they do it under Heupel, but as a actual fan base constantly, things will change a lot quicker than people think.
I hope that you're right. There's so much history behind the way that I and a whole lot of Tennessee fans feel that it's hard to break out of.
But I'm just trust me when I tell you this. Trust me. Those kids, keyword kids and young men in that building, they play like they don't hear stuff. We're human. You hear the outside chatter, right? The more negativity they hear, the more it gets in the back of their head. You're human. You cannot help it. You are human, and you are a young man walking the streets of Knoxville, going to class, hearing people when you walk by over there, they didn't play so great, or they're going to get their ass kicked this week, blah, blah, blah. When they hear that, what do you think is instilled in them?
Yeah.
Whether they go to practice and they bust their rear end and they go to meetings and they do off-season workouts, all this stuff. But if we don't stop having that pessimist attitude from the top down, it'll never change. Right? If we start changing in the community around it, which we have, you can tell we have that optimistic personality in Knoxville under Heupel, 100%. But just consistently, dude, if they have an off night, did we win like last week? Yeah, we still won. On to the next week.
There is definitely so much more real belief. I kind of mentioned it during the halftime with the 102,000 people showing up to the Akron game. There's so much more real belief with Heupel right now because everything just seems so much more competent. I think that's where I really feel like you just look at what's happening right now with Tennessee, and it feels different. Like this is not like, whoa, we got lucky with Rick Barnes. Like Rick Barnes feels different. The dude has made Tennessee basketball a stable perennial contender. It's amazing.
Side note, he was the only reason why I was a Clemson football fan growing up, even though he's the basketball coach. I love that man.
Interesting.
Random trivia fact of the night.
Oh, there you go. And that is, Rick's history. Clemson there. But like that, it almost felt like Tennessee like stumbled into that. Where it was like, wow, Rick Barnes, he would just Texas dropped him, and here he is. Come on in, and we just sort of got lucky. Yeah. With Danny White right now and with Heupel, this feels so much more intentional and so much more actually competent. And you just look at what's happening and you go like, huh. So this is what happens when these guys like actually know what they're doing. This is what this looks like. So
and you see the productivity, and you give him an extension after 1 year.
So let's talk. Can we, before we get into the actual like Florida prediction, can we talk about that? I have my thoughts on this. I am not here's the whole situation. They've supposedly been working on that since January of this year as just sort of like a, hey buddy, great job in year one. Here's an extra $1 million. That's really all it was. So ultimately, I don't really have many qualms with it. The timing is annoying here because you're literally about to go into what I would consider, not to put too much pressure on the guy, but what I would consider a career-defining stretch for Josh Heupel. No. This stretch goes well. He's going to be the coach of Tennessee for a long time. How is it
career-defining, though? How is it career-defining? Nick Saban sucked when he was at other places. Bill Belichick got fired from the Browns.
Well, okay. At least maybe era-defining for the Josh Heupel era at Tennessee. Maybe. I think no, Crump. These games are massive. These games are absolutely massive, man.
Nick Saban went 6-6.
In year one, we've already seen year one.
Did he win the Natty in year two?
Here's a fun fact. We actually saw this past year. Josh Heupel, through 15 games, has the same exact record that Nick Saban had at Alabama. But
you see what I'm saying? Like, but that's what I'm trying to get at is when we put that, when we say those ways, we're all human, right? People hear that. There's a reason why coaches don't get on social media. There's a reason why most coaches don't have Facebook and all this stuff on purpose, because they're human. They can say, well, I don't listen to it all day long. I don't do this. I don't do that, blah, blah, blah. They're human. They hear the chatter. They're kids. They got kids that go around town. They got a wife, right? All this stuff. They hear it. And when it's, oh man, hey, listen, like you said, it's career defining. How? Dude, he is in his fourth year as a head coach, roughly. I think it's 4. Wasn't he 3 at UCF?
3, I believe.
And
he
so he not even a half a decade as a head coach. We cannot say it's career defining.
But
it's not even a season defining these next 2 weeks.
But here's why I say that, just to explain that out in full. I don't think it's career defining in that at the end of Josh Heupel's career, people will look back and be like, those are the exact games we look to. I think this could end up being a turning point in Heupel's career. This is a little bit of a fork in the road, I think, in terms of his career, because I think you look at this stretch of games and you go, if this dude goes 2-1 against Alabama, Florida, and LSU, this man will be the coach at Tennessee for a considerable amount of time. If he goes 0-3 in this stretch, I don't think he will be the coach at Tennessee for a considerable amount of time. Potentially.
Why? How? But, and this goes for everybody. I want comments on this too. How?
I just think these are the games. We know that Heupel can win the South Carolinas, the Missouris, the Bandies. We know that. It's done. These are the games you got to win. This is it.
All right, so and it's funny. So me and my dad are in a group text with all of his buddies. One's a retired sports reporter, and I like to poke the bear. Right, it's fun. I was sitting there talking about the Arkansas game. I was like, get the U-Haul vans ready. They barely beat an FCS team. Right, being funny because why? Like. He's in year freaking 3. Right? You see what I'm saying? Like, but that's the difference in today's era. Well, if you don't win your half of the conference in year 2 or 3, you get out of town. That's how you don't build stability. Nick Saban sucked at Alabama his first 2 years because he didn't have his players. Right? Do you see what I'm getting at? Like, you have to give time, and you can't say, well, if we lose to Florida, LSU, and Bama, then he's not going to, then that extension was just pissing in the wind. Can't do that. Now, in year 8, yeah, we can say that. But in year 2, we can't say it that way because the reality is we have a transfer quarterback as number 1 and number 2. We're living in the portal like most teams are going to start doing, which is good, and I'm fine with that. But we can't say this will define that he won't be there long term if we don't win it this year.
I'm not saying that this is going to get him fired.
No, but you were saying that he wouldn't be there long term.
I'm saying I've seen enough Tennessee coaches in my day to read the tea leaves.
But you've also seen Tennessee coaches with, not the best ADs in the world and not trusting ADs. Not trusting ADs.
I'll caveat that and say, who really put the screws to me in the last year or so was Rick Barnes. I mean, he was cooked in my mind. Not cooked, but I was just like, we've seen the best of Rick Barnes. Like, this is over. And, at the beginning of last season, it just seemed shaky. And you're just like, this isn't going to get any better than the Grant Williams years. And then they win the SEC championship. And Rick Barnes went and took that personally. And he said, no, we're going to go do something that Tennessee hasn't done since the late 70s. And he went and did that. And that's great. And so Lord knows I can be wrong. There you go. I was wrong in the last year. But I would say in terms of having this mindset, I've been more right than I have ever been wrong. As far as feeling that way when you go like, can your coach win the big games? If he can't, he's not your dude. He's just not. Like, that's just kind of the way it is. I don't.
But that's once again, that goes back to, like I say, when that's the mindset in Knoxville, and I'm not saying it is because I don't live there anymore. I'm just Tennessee's in Knoxville. If that's
the feeling's different right now,
huh?
The feeling is different right now. I'll say that.
No, and I totally 100% think it is from just outside looking in, since I don't live there. But I'm just saying, but if that's the consensus mindset of, well, if you can't win the big game, you can't be here. Every game is big. It's football, for God's sake. You get 12 of them. Every game's big, right? It doesn't matter if you're playing Hawaii. Hence Vandy. Vandy beat the piss out of Hawaii. Vandy, you know what? I'm going to say this. I feel like I might be wrong about Clark Lee. I said that was the worst hire in the history of the program. But he has them believing. It's over half the goddamn battle.
Yeah.
Right? Vanderbilt's playing so much better than I thought they would. No lie. And what are they? They're 2-1? Well, guess what Florida's record is? 2-1.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't matter if you have the confidence and the belief in your coach and say, hey, man, bottom line is, no, none of us want to go into this game trying to lose. None of us. That's not why you get into competitive sports. But the harsh reality is, in the SEC, if we lose a game, we cannot call for their head and their firing after losing one goddamn game. And that's what we do. Let's just call a spade a spade. That's what we do in the SEC. If you lose a rival game, get the U-Haul ready.
It's gotten a little over the top. This is kind of I'm gonna be honest. This is sort of the reaction I was fishing for a little bit in bringing this up. But Alex says, "Screw you, Charlie. We are winning. Stop being a negavol." Look, I know the way that I am. I'm completely self-aware.
Honestly, I'm so tired because of being up all day. That made my freaking night. just.
You're saying what you want to say to me right now. I know, but I'm fully and for the most part, I try to keep that overarching feeling to myself, because really it's just kind of internal, and it's like at the beginning of the game last week where, we got down 10-0, and I bet Alex in this comment right here, Alex, don't you dare tell me that when Tennessee was down 10-0 last week, you didn't go, oh boy, here we go again. We're here once again. Why did I let myself get it? Don't you lie to me. That's how you felt last week when Tennessee went down 10-0. We all did it. If you didn't feel that way, I don't know that you're human, because that's what Tennessee sports has done to us. Okay. But for the most part, I try to keep this down. But when it comes to like a game like the Florida game, I just have such a hard time, because you just go into it and you go like, oh, this thing has kicked me in the nuts over and over and over and over and over again. And now I have to be ready to just take another swift one to the pants, And that's the thing when it comes to the Florida game. It's just like it's a thing. Like it just like that's the way that it is. Here's Jimmy lying. Here's a liar. Jimmy said, I didn't feel that way. I know the offense rerun. No, you didn't think that. I don't believe it.
Why? Why can't they listen? Charlie, I love you, man. Are you okay?
No, I'm not.
No. I know you've been scarred in the past. Are you okay? Do we need an intervention?
If Josh Heupel can win next week, I'll be far more open.
But that should not define it. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, look, Derek says, why are we talking like this? The Vols are still undefeated. That should be celebrated, even if 2 of the games have been cupcake games. Alabama celebrates after beating the piss out of some cupcake games.
Yeah.
Right? Georgia celebrates beating the piss out of teams. Why can't we celebrate? That's what it's a mindset. And don't get me wrong, I loved Mark Richt. I did. I think he was a great coach. I think he's a great human being. They didn't call for his head every year that he didn't win the Natty. It took about 13 years in for them to start saying, hey, we really got to start doing something here, because they were consistently 9, 10-win teams. You see what I'm saying? Because here's the reality of football. And actually, every sport. Only one team a year gets to win or gets to end the season with a win.
Yeah.
Only one. Right? Obviously, that's our strive. We want to be that one.
Well,
but I'm just saying, it's like we got to celebrate the good in what we're doing. We're doing it. We're averaging a lot of excitement, points, right? Defense is playing fast. Let's celebrate what we've done and not go, well, the past has really done this. That's, that would be like somebody saying, I don't want to get married because my ex really screwed me over. But you're really great and I love you, but I don't think we can be together.
Yeah.
Right. We got to learn to trust again. So I'm just saying, Charlie, we'll have an intervention.
I'm just glad that you're not playing into my neuroses, because
it won't happen.
At the end of the day, it is really what it is. I find that in most former players, though, that
I think so.
Whatever it is with having been competitive in sports at the college level, y'all are way better at just shaking off, where you just go like, no, we're just gonna go out there and win like that. I saw that across the board from all the former players I met doing Swain show and stuff. Like, that was very, very common. Like, I would be like, you really think like that we're gonna whatever, it would go out and be competitive with Georgia or whatever? And be like, yeah, that's what we do. Like, we're gonna go out and be competitive. And
you expect that as an athlete. Like Mark literally just commented, you don't come to Tennessee to win 7 games. We expect greatness. 100%.
Yeah.
As the player, you don't. Here's the thing. I truly, truly, truly wish you guys could see what the feeling is in the locker rooms with what we expect from ourselves and from the team and from the staff, and even more the community to back the players. Because you're right, Mark, 1,000%. We do not come to Tennessee to say, I hope we win 5, 6, 7 games. That's not why you go there. But the reality is, you got to have the backing. And I love these comments of all the people being very, I'm going to use the word optimistic, but being very positive, because we are doing that in the community now. We didn't always do that. We're in the SEC. We're in the heart of SEC country. That's what happens. Look at Florida. Well, you didn't win it. See ya. On the next guy, right? 3 or 4 years in, gone. Your OC won an Addy, but screw you, right? That's SEC football. In Knoxville, you can tell it's turning. I'm just really I want everybody to understand, stay positive in the community. Excuse me. These players live in the community. They're in and around the community. They go to hospitals for charity, right? You know what I'm saying? They do all this stuff in and around. They cancer patients, right? They care. Look at Clemson with Breezy's little sister. They're wearing the all-in T-shirts for her. If they hear negativity, they're human. They're going to hear it. Just continue to be positive like they have been, or like everybody is starting to really be again. Well,
I can say this to wrap this conversation up, because I want to get to the actual, talking about the Florida game, what we think is going to happen. I can be easily convinced. I was skeptical of Danny when he came in, Danny White, and he said, the initial thing where he was like, we're going to text a buddy when bad things happen and stuff. And I was like, oh boy, look at this guy. He thinks he's real smart. And then now I've looked at what he's done. I was like, I like this guy. I like this guy a lot. He listens to fans. He knows what he's doing. He's smart. He's pretty cunning. I would say, like, I think he knows how to play the game. And so I'm easily convinced. I said it last week with, like, Tennessee basketball in Kentucky. You go in and you win and rup a couple of times. I'm like, well, yeah. Then we're going to go in and win and rup every single time. You go in and you beat Florida a couple times in football. I'm going to be like, well, yeah, now what we do is we beat Florida in football. So let's just go next week. Let's win the game. That's all I'll say.
That's all Charlie wants.
Yes, that's all I want. Why did somebody ask me if I have a wife or a girlfriend?
It was because the analogy I made.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. I do have a wife. Yes, we both do. And she hears my rants all day long about Tennessee, and she wants me to shut up and not do them. So you guys get to hear them here. All right. So,
hey, my wife watches this show, so everybody be careful. Don't say bad things about me, because trust me, she is very protective of me, and I love her for that.
Cromp, the ladies are out prowling tonight. They want a piece of that Cromp. All right. Florida.
Yep.
On the horizon. Let's assume Tillman plays. I
think he will.
I think Tillman plays. I think Small doesn't.
I just have a feeling I think he will.
I think Small's out. Tillman, I think, plays, just from the general feeling around those two situations. Hopefully they both play, but let's assume Tillman plays and let's assume Small doesn't. So Jalen Wright's your running back. Tillman is in the rotation. How are you feeling about next week?
I mean, obviously, I think everybody can tell I feel pretty good about it, but I'm always going to feel good about it because that's the ex-athlete in me. You know what I'm saying? Like teams that go 0-10, the Detroit Lions, when they go 0-16, they don't think they're going to lose. Well, they may actually, I don't know. But I feel pretty good about it. I mean, Wright I'm looking right here. He carried it 23 times tonight. I like that. I wish his average was a little higher instead of 4.2. But a couple of those were skewed because we're on the 2-yard line trying to run it in. So, but I also like that Sampson, 8 for 57. Kid's got a little burst to him. I saw at halftime somebody said he's got flames flying off the bottom of his cleats. I feel really good about a running back situation.
I said it at halftime. I almost feel better with Jalen Wright in the backfield.
Don't you do it.
I almost feel better with Jalen Wright. He just has he's a little more explosive. I don't know, he runs a little harder. Maybe he's like, just something about it. He's small is the veteran guy and a guy that you really want in that room. But
here's the thing.
I like the way Wright runs.
But you got to, typically you need that veteran presence, right? If there's if in the system that we run, if there's a position that you don't necessarily have to have, you always want, it's a plus, but you don't have to have, it would be running back in this system because we go so quick, you don't have time to think about anything. You know what I'm saying? And Alabama, old school Alabama, in the 2010, 2012, 13, 14, then you got to have a thinker at tailback. Like they're doing a lot of random different stuff. We're playing so quick, you don't have time. So if there's a position we can get away with it, it is running back, not having the veteran presence. It's a huge plus if we have it. But the other two, I'm not going to complain with one bit.
Yeah. I agree with that.
I also think that if Tillman, God forbid, Tillman can't go, Hyatt just showed tonight, oh, yeah, I got 11 catches. I got 11 catches last week on all 5 and under routes. Oh, by the way, I just went from 5 for 166 to show that I can run by you. So I think that's a plus. Now when Tillman plays, you go, oh, hold on. Hyatt can run by me, though, but so can Tillman. Right? So I think if they both play, that's a hard cover because they're on the same side of the field.
I like it. It's great points. I like a couple of these comments. Ben Hall said you can't teach the exploration Wright and Sampson have. And then Philip Hood said Small can't pass block. I don't know. I say he can't. I do think Jalen Wright pass blocks a little bit better than Small does.
I would agree with that. I wouldn't say that he can't. I would say it's not his most favorite thing to do.
No, he got cracked on Monday night.
It's one of those that he would rather get in there and be the scat back.
Yes. Except I like, so Ben said he actually meant explosion, but I actually like exploration. Like I like that. I meant what I said there. I think they find, that's sort of how I interpreted that. They find the lanes better.
Well, watch this. I mentioned it at halftime. When have we run speed option this year?
To that game tonight.
Tonight, right?
Yeah.
We ran speed option with a kid that can freaking run. So now what does Florida got a game plan for? Oh, crap. Now they got to go for speed option and waste. I'm using the word waste. 15 minutes a day on speed option.
Yeah.
We may not run it. We may not run the damn thing. Right?
It was a great little fold.
It was.
It was
and
effective.
If you notice, what was so cool is we went speed option right, and the back started on our left, which tells you if we're running speed option, we should go left. But right before the snap, he did literally like a half a second, pre-motion and got in position to go to the right. Those little tweaks are hard for a defense because they go off of keys, pre-snap keys, right? So those little things I think are huge, and especially with Sampson's speed.
Well, this is the perfect time because we got too deep in the weeds of talking about the philosophy of dealing mentally with the Florida game there. But we have to bring up the one stat from the game brought to you by Rattle and Snap whiskey. And I have my stat, and it relates to this discussion about the Florida game. So I'll lead into it by saying that, and then we got to talk just briefly before we each give our big stat from the game that we think kind of pertains to what's coming for Tennessee. I'll have to tell you, it's getting crispy outside, Cromp. I think this week it was like legitimately fall weather, and what goes better with fall weather than whiskey? And what goes better, well, in terms of your whiskey choices, what is better than Rattle and Snap Tennessee whiskey from Log Still Distillery? Log Still Distillery is releasing a new Tennessee whiskey product line, Rattle and Snap whiskey. It's named after a long-forgotten game of chance. It will be getting released this month across Kentucky, Indiana, Tennessee, and Mississippi. There is a 4-year Rattle and Snap whiskey and an 8-year. Look for both of them on the shelves of your local stores. They're going to be all over the place in those particular states. So Rattle and Snap Tennessee whiskey, go get that bottle, and then we'll pop it open to celebrate that win over Florida next week. Am I right? Was that optimistic enough for you, Crump?
Thank you. You know what? Our intervention worked. It worked. Right? I love it.
But legitimately, Rattle and Snap whiskey, they're awesome. And I'll say, where was it? This is actually this. So this is a statistic. This is my one statistic. It's not from the Tennessee game. I went off of it. Dang it. Hold on. How many rushing yards did Florida give up tonight? We talked about it earlier in the show, but I wanted.
It was like 294.
And this is what it was going to be. I had the box score here. It is right here. 286. Brutal. 150 to Brian Beatty. 102 to Jerry Bohannon, who is the quarterback for South Florida. And I think I look almost at that 102 to Jerry Bohannon, and I kind of look at Hendon Hooker, and I go, hello, somebody. Let's get some yards for Hendon Hooker in that game. That's my stat for the night right now. I think
I like it.
I don't want to say that's the game, but that has been the game in past matchups with Florida. Whoever wins on the ground wins that game.
Well, and I'm going to go with mine then. 238 on the ground tonight for us, because I keep going. We're built. If we go for 120, 130, 140 plus, we're really hard to beat.
Yeah.
If we can get to 150 next week, rushing, that means we have done what we do offensively, and we can shorten that game. We keep the ball. They don't score points.
It's that simple. So that's my stat that I think it just popped out to me, because Tennessee, if it's Jalen Wright, if he ends up being the dude, I think he can run effectively against Florida. I mean, good Lord, they are just hemorrhaging yards. They gave up 250, I believe, I'm thinking right, against Utah also. So it's right there for the picking. And Tennessee, I think you really saw against Pitt, when the run game doesn't work in that second half, it just wasn't going so hot. Yeah. It throws off the offense a lot.
It does.
And so if it's going well, I think it's a well-oiled machine.
When as much as this offense looks like we throw the ball deep and do this stuff a lot, which we do, it's predicated on run game.
Yeah.
Right. First down efficiency helps us out, because then if we're not great on second down, we're still third and manageable. That's why I keep saying and I'm going to up it really. If we go to 150 each week running, like we're really tough, because now that means we're being efficient on first down. And if we rush for 150, that means we're going to average probably 5 to 6 yards a carry. We do 5 to 6 yards a carry. That I'm good with that.
I think that wins you the game. I really do. And
it's going to win. I think it wins most games. I really do.
I like Derek's comment right here. He said, can we not talk about teams that give up 1 billion yards rushing? I'm still upset over the Titans game last week. Me too. Me too.
Curly, we need to have a talk about the teams that you pick.
It's okay, and we should definitely mention that the Titans are certainly guilty also in terms of scarring me as a fan.
I can tell.
So many brutal losses. But let's wrap it up. Wrap it up in a bow here. Prediction. Score prediction for the Florida game. Cromp, I will give mine tomorrow on the Big Orange podcast, 4 p.m. Eastern time on this same YouTube, Facebook on A to Z Sports. Me and Zach Reagan. We'll get a little more analytical, where this was almost more of a therapy session for me, Cromp, which was nice.
I think it worked out well.
It did. But let's score prediction for the Florida game. What are you feeling?
Well, right before that, I do want to mention this. I saw a comment a couple of times asking about the punches thrown.
Yes.
I just saw it popped up and it clicked my head again. So while everybody's kind of doing their score prediction, I'll give my thought real quick. I don't know if it was because of low blows. It didn't look like it, because that was the comment that was asked.
It was Jimmy Callaway.
Yeah,
on kind of an anodyne play, like nothing really happened. Was.
And one, don't break your own hand.
Yeah, stupid.
Has anybody ever punched the helmet? It's not fun, right? Like, don't do that. I'm kind of curious to what brought it on. It almost looked like it was out of nowhere.
They were letting it get really chippy.
And they were.
Yeah.
I'm curious as to what internally his repercussions are. Internally. You know what I'm saying? Oh, it's always we'll handle it in-house. I'm just curious as to what, because that was, if you swing once and it's like, oh, I didn't really mean it. Dude, this guy, we counted, it was like 6 punches. It ain't like you can say, oh, I didn't mean it. Like, you swung legitimately like 6 times. So I'm just curious as to why and what repercussions. It was dumb. You don't do that. You can't do that. You won't be on the team long if you do that. Bottom line. So I just wanted to mention that because I saw a few comments about it.
It's pretty much that simple. I don't know. Yeah. Anytime I see somebody throw punches at a helmet, I'm like, what? Like, what's the thought process there? Come on. Yeah. You're not landing anything.
Clip it at the corner of the face mask. No.
That's a good way to like rip your finger off.
Well, no, I mean, like, legit, like, it just don't be an idiot. Like, it's going to hurt. Like, you're going to feel that tomorrow. You're going to look down and go, damn, those knuckles really don't feel good. But on to that, my score prediction.
There are, so Ben Hall mentioned it up here. He said, did Richardson get hurt? I was just looking on Twitter. There is some speculation that he's on a bum ankle at the moment. So, but also I think their backup is even hurt.
No, I would not know.
So I think he's a go no matter what.
Oh yeah,
but
he's their best option.
Yes.
Bottom line. But with that being the case, I truly think we keep the 45-point streak going. Right? I'm going to say 47-38.
47-38. I like that. Very competitive game. High scoring.
Yep.
Well, as I said, I'm going to have to give it some deep thought. This was good. We had a little therapy session. Me, Zach Reagan, tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern time on the A to Z Sports Networks. I'll give my prediction there when we kind of dive into it. Maybe we'll know a little bit more about Antonio. We'll know about Richardson tomorrow. And maybe we'll know about Cedric Tillman. Who knows? So maybe a little more information under our belt by the time we do that live stream. Not tomorrow, but Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. It is not Sunday currently. It's almost Sunday. It's almost midnight. But Cromp, you've been up since 5 a.m. coaching your kids.
Comment of the night.
What? Which one?
The last comment, Mark.
He said Anthony Richardson was probably just acting hurt in case they lost. That way he had a built-in excuse.
Sorry. I couldn't help but point it out. That's my last thing.
Well, that'd be a rough start for old Napier, and I hope we give it to him. That's all I want.
Fire up the U-Hauls. Napier's done.
Basically. But is that not from his side? Like, you think about it from our side, like, it's pretty devastating, but you lost 16 out of the last 17. You think about it from their side, they won 16 out of the last 17. The last guy that lost that game did get fired that year. I'm just saying, maybe.
I'm an optimist for us, and I'm a pessimist for everybody else.
I'm an eternal pessimist for everybody. They're all Bama's done this year. I don't know.
Yeah. I said
Georgia may be so good that I can't.
They ran the table, won the Natty, so I was wrong.
We shall see. All right, that's it. Charlie Burris, Jonathan Crompton. Thanks to all of our sponsors: Farm Bureau Health Plans, Omaha Steaks, Rattle and Snap, Tennessee Whiskey. Go give them your business so that they will keep helping us out here. We really, really, really appreciate it. Really appreciate everybody watching. The audience all the way halftime. Post game was awesome tonight. We're gonna post clips of the show if you didn't get to see the whole thing, but the whole thing is up on YouTube. Also, otherwise, that's it. If you're here, you know where to find us. So I think that's it. Any parting words, Cromp, and we'll get out of here.
No, nothing except appreciate you guys tuning in, especially this late, and we'll see you next week.
All righty. We will see everybody then. Thanks again for watching, and everybody have a good night.